Do you guys know who George Janko is?
I've heard of him.
Yeah, so he's a big time podcaster. He was on the Logan Paul show, and he's actually he's actually a Syrian, and he's like really popular.
Okay.
And he's really, I think he goes to the Assyrian church. He has a lot of kind of Protestant ideas too, but a lot of the time he'll present his biblical ideas, and he won't say that this is what he believes or this is the true Christian teaching, but he will present it in a way of him kind of just thinking out loud about the faith, and then he'll just ask for opinions about that. And so he was speaking about the fact that he knows that God is love and that the Bible teaches all of that, and he was really having a problem with the doctrine of hell and with going to hell for all eternity. And so he presents an interpretation of a Bible verse that I want to get your guys' input on. And he actually asked for people that are knowledgeable about the faith to give input. I think you guys are very knowledgeable about the faith. So I want to see what you guys think. This is like a minute something clip.
So I'm like, all right, God, like help me understand this a little bit more. So I'm reading Matthew. And in Matthew, he says, don't be scared of who could destroy your body. Be scared of who could destroy your body and your soul. Destroy your soul. And then I read in Luke, it says, don't be scared of the one who could destroy your body. Be scared of the one who could throw you into hell. So then I'm like, okay, wait, hell, what if hell is like a lake of fire that's an eternal fire that destroys something that's eternal? Like completely ends it. And the invitation to God is heaven. So the people that choose not to be with Jesus are just gone forever. And then the people that want to be in Jesus' presence will be in Jesus' presence. So I just sat there and thought about that. And I was like, well, if that's true, then it takes away all of my fear of like, why am I worshiping you? Like, does my God see me as a man who worships God because I'm scared of him or because I love him? I know my dad wouldn't want me to love him because I'm terrified of him. He would want me to love him because I love his attributes and I love him as a father. So then I got rid of that. I pretend in my head, I go, no, I think that hell is like you eliminate what forever. But there's no torture. It's just like you chose not to be with me, so depart from me forever.
Yeah. This is your stop.
This is an all-loving God. Mm-hmm. This is a God that loves his enemies. So if you love your enemies, you just be gone like that. No pain, just poof, gone. Okay.
That's it?
That's it.
I mean, there's a couple of things that I would say about that. One, the ending, I mean, it's a really intelligent question. He said it in an intelligent way, so that's good. I'm giving credit for that. One thing, just at the end, he kind of pointed to an answer. Well, if you're going to love your enemies, then you're going to just make them stop existing. What's happening there? He's forgetting there is no proportion between us and God. I'm just imagining, well, if I was God, this is what I would do, but you're not God, and none of us can imagine what it's like to be God, to even see things from his perspective. So that just alone shows the weakness of this kind of understanding of things. It's the way that I love, this is the way that I would love. And, well, who says we're anything? Well, okay, we're in God's image, but again, we're an image. We're like a shadow. We're like the equivalent of, a painting to an actual person. That's how distant we are from God, even though we're closer than any other physical creature. So just to kind of humbly respect that distance will get us, I think, on the right track, reasonably speaking. The other thing is, God is unable, I mean, in my belief, he can't contradict himself. And when he creates the human soul eternal, in the sense of the soul is the kind of thing that can't stop existing, for him to create something that is not capable of not existing anymore. This is what the human soul is. Within creation, within the created world, the soul and angels are the kinds of things that exist forever. He created them in that way. But then no, he's going to change his mind, and now I'm going to decide that this thing is going to stop existing. That's a contradiction of himself. Now, I do think it's legitimate to say, well, how can a loving God throw people in hell and torture them for all eternity? Great question. And that's another deep, terrifying mystery. Yeah, it's not for us to understand. St. Paul himself is like, well, I don't know, the depth and the mysteries of God I think the way to think about it is he doesn't do that. We make that choice. And so when he makes us in his image, he makes us able to make a choice. And we make a choice and choice after choice after choice for over a whole lifetime. And we've rejected God. And at the end, we reject God. It's not that God, well, now I'm going to punish you in this external way for rejecting me because I have low self-esteem and I want to hurt you because you hurt my feelings. No. You've chosen to reject me. Okay. I respect your choice. You're the kind of thing that's going to exist forever. Sorry about that, but but you're going to live apart from me because you've chosen to turn against me.
And speaking of knowing by analogy, you can think of relationships or marriages. Your actions, especially over a certain amount of time, say what you think about the relationship or what you want or don't want out of the relationship. So eventually, after a certain amount of time and certain patterns develop or degenerate, you're saying that you don't want this relationship. And so why would that relationship continue to exist?
But and the thing is that, so to like further that analogy, the relationship does continue to exist even if there's distance. And that's I think a closer analogy to heaven and hell, is that when we decide that we're not going to be, let's say in communication with God or in dialogue with him, or to live according to his commandments and to be in this relationship with him, it's not that the relationship ceases, it's that it still continues to exist, which is why God created us to be immortal. Our souls are immortal by nature, and that means to live in as ordered towards God. If we, by our own freedom, and freedom has got to be the kind of the main point here, if by our own freedom we decide that we're going to go against that order by which we're created towards God, the relationship continues to exist. It just exists, not to our benefit because we chose to go against it. Like a relationship, a husband and wife get divorced, unfortunately, if that happens, the relationship is still there, but the distance from one another is experienced as some kind of pain or displeasure, something like that, And I think that's what hell is. It's just living distantly from God, or living in a relationship with him in such a way that we hate that relationship.
There's a question that I've gotten a lot. I want to see what you guys think or how you would respond to it, about why is it that our choices are only in this earth, and then after this life, when we go to heaven or hell, why can't a person get out of there? Or why are they there for all eternity? Why is it just in this world? And then it goes back to the thing about angels, how they had that one choice as well, and they made that choice, and they are in their places, either heaven or hell, for all eternity. So why is that the case?
I think it's just the nature of the human soul. The human soul is the actual. Sorry, I have to do philosophy.
Actuality of potential as potential?
No, it's the first actuality of a body with organs. So the first actuality of a body capable of life. In the case of the human soul, it's the body that's capable of thinking and choosing, as well as all the other functions of the body.
Because we're not humans without our bodies.
So part of being a human being is that our soul is the form of a body. And so for the soul to function, the body really is required. And even for the soul to sort of see God in heaven, the souls of the blessed in heaven, requires an extra grace. They're not able to do anything of their own nature. It requires a kind of, God has to sort of give this extra thing. And that's why we believe in the resurrection of the body at the end of the end of time, because we're really incomplete without our bodies. But there was a thing that I was going to say about the other.
About the angels?
What I heard, I forgot where I heard this, but it was a really interesting quote. Somebody said about heaven and hell and God, quote unquote, sending people to hell. I think this is actually a really interesting point. Somebody said, if God forced those people that rejected him to be in heaven, that would be worse than hell for them, because they don't want to be there. They have rejected God, and so for God to attempt, again, some weird theoretical impossibility, but if you were to force them to be, it's like, well, I've told you that I hate you, and now you're going to force me to be near you. That's worse than saying, I respect your wish, bye.
Okay, here's a question based on
Teresa
that.
Avila says that, by the way.
Is that the way? Okay,
Yeah.
That's where I got it from then.
So let's say, how does purgatory fit into that? Because purgatory, like, we're not ready to go before God if we have even venial sins on our soul, right? So yes, there's mortal sin, and that means that a person has rejected God by their choices and they live in a state of separation from God. And if they die in that state, we believe that they won't go to heaven. But even a soul who has venial sins has not fully accepted God, and they have rejected God to some extent in their life. And God allows the grace of purgatory as a way of purification. So the question would be, why wouldn't he allow it for the people that die in mortal sin?
I mean, there's another image that comes from Pope Benedict, well, Ratzinger as a scholar. He said that, our place in heaven, purgatory, or hell depends on the disposition of our hearts toward God, how we are in relationship to God, not how God is in relationship to us. So that means that it's not that God throws us into hell or throws us into purgatory or accepts us into heaven. It's that he gives us all the grace necessary on earth in order to save our souls, because that's his desire for everybody. But our choices and the disposition of our hearts based on those choices in relation to him is what's going to determine our place. And that in heaven and purgatory and hell, it's all the experience of our love of God. If we love him and we're in heaven, we'll love being with him. If we act against him, we hate him, we rail against him or whatever, we live totally disordered from his own nature, then we'll experience him as pain, and that's what hell is, right? And if we love him imperfectly, then we'll experience him in this purifying manner, which is purgatory. But it's all, what is the disposition of our hearts toward the love of God? If we love the love of God, if we love mercy, if we love forgiveness, reconciliation, if we love these things, then we'll experience him in a good manner. Painfully, because to forgive is hard for us, and so purgatory is for something like that. And then we learn how to, love in a more pure way through purgatory.
I just use an analogy because this is sort of an aspect of human existence. Purgatory is not God. So I think we can kind of understand what purgatory is. We're right here, like the room is a little bit dark. When we walk outside and it's sunny, it's going to hurt for a second until our eyes get used to the light. Yeah. I think that's all purgatory is. It might go on for a long time or what, I don't know how that all works, but that's really all it is, as opposed to, it really helps you understand what mortal sin is and how serious it is. It's the equivalent of, I have blinded myself. I no longer have eyes, I can no longer even see the light. Whereas now I'm just kind of used to like a more dark environment because I'm attached to things that I shouldn't be attached to, or I have bad habits, but I'm living relatively in the light. Whereas mortal sin is, I have killed the life of God in me. And it's the equivalent of blindness that I'm just not capable of seeing that light anymore.
Yeah, and you don't even so if we're in this dark room, we don't want to walk outside and just go look at the sun, that's going to hurt us.
Right.
So that's like somebody that's imperfect doesn't want to go to heaven right away, because the parts of them that are imperfect is going to be pained by the love of God or by the light of God, let's say, right? So you want to go through that slow process of purification.
What you guys are saying makes a lot of sense for sure, but some people would say, where is purgatory in the Bible? Because there's not an explicit verse, right, that talks about it. So
you will not be released until you've paid the last penny.
Yeah, it's Matthew 5, I think, in the Sermon on the Mount.
And the forever practice of the church of praying for the dead. Why are you going to pray for the dead if they're in heaven? They don't need your prayers. If they're in hell, you're not going to help them. So and now there are some of the other Eastern churches will say we don't believe in purgatory, but they'll pray for the dead.
Yeah.
Okay, don't say that sound. Don't make the sound purgatory if you don't want to. But that's what you.
The idea is there for sure.
Yeah, it's there.
And praying for the dead is not a new invention of Christianity or Catholicism. It goes back to the time of Maccabees.
Yeah. And St. Paul talks about how I think it's in 1 Corinthians somewhere, how we have to be purified as through fire.
As through fire, yeah.
And the purification, it doesn't necessarily only happen in this world, but thank God he allows it to happen after our life too, because even if you had a venial sin and you die, which the Bible talks about mortal and venial sins too in letter of John, if you had a venial sin, you'd go straight to hell, because you cannot go before God unless there was something like purification after this life, which is
here's the thing, it's important to understand, all of this is grace. None of this is, I'm going to earn my way to this or that or that. Then it's okay, now then I can boast.
Yeah.
It's all of this is grace, and to the degree to which I'm receptive of this grace, and accepting it in the idea of communion, which we were talking about the Trinity before, that my heart is open to my connection with God and with others.
I've heard people say that the doctrine of purgatory diminishes. So I want to show you guys a video. Do you guys know who George Janko is?
I've heard of him.
Yeah, so he's a big time podcaster. He was on the Logan Paul show, and he's actually he's actually a Syrian, and he's like really popular.
Okay.
And he's really, I think he goes to the Assyrian church. He has a lot of kind of Protestant ideas too, but a lot of the time